All right, welcome back to the Young Turks. Well, the movie that started all these problems, if you can call it a movie, is called Innocence of Muslims. And the man behind it was supposed to be Sam Basile. Here's the problem. It is not Sam Basile. He said he was an Israeli American. He is not an Israeli American. He is not anything that he said he was. In fact, look at this ABC News report.
Just who made the movie remains a mystery. It is credited to a shadowy figure using the pseudonym Sam Basile. Nakula Basli Nakula, a 55-year-old Californian who served time in federal prison for bank fraud, tells the Associated Press he managed the film's production company, but denies he's the director.
Yeah, I think they got him. Associated Press tracked him down. Now, when he showed him his driver's license, his name is Nakula Basili Nakula. He put his thumb over the middle name Basili so they wouldn't notice. Fail. Okay, his other aliases, Nicola Basili, Robert Basili, and Erwin Salome, randomly. Okay, it's him. By the way, this guy in 2010 got caught for federal bank fraud charges, $790,000 in restitution. He had to pay 21 months in prison. But get a load of this. He's not allowed to use a computer or the internet for the next 5 years, according to his probation. He definitely used the internet. So authorities might want to look at that, and he might actually be going back to prison. So that's fascinating, and we'll see if they do anything about that. Now, more from a local Fox story about his home.
The media out here hoping that Nicola will come out here and speak to them, give, again, his version of this story, growing evidence that he is that same person. And if you take a look at that YouTube video, guys, it does appear that some portions of that movie were filmed or shot inside this home.
Fail. All right, now, speaking of fail, Steve Klein is a guy who said that he would help promote the movie. He is also an extremist right-wing Christian here in the United States. Well, Reuters caught up with him, and they had this fascinating interview.
If I talked to you about this movie, would you go out and kill anybody? No. Would the vast majority of Muslims do it? No. Would a very small fraction whose DNA, genomes, their psyche, everything revolves around this insane behavior, would they go out and do it? Yeah, they would do it. Do I have blood on my hands? No.
Well, two interesting things. First of all, what you didn't see there was throughout the rest of the interview, he was drinking a beer. So, classy. Second of all, you don't have blood on your hands. That's interesting because you had said yesterday, quote, we went into this knowing this was probably going to happen. Well, did you know it was going to happen or did you not know it was going to happen? So that's very interesting as well. Now, meanwhile, here's who didn't know what was going to happen. It's the actors, because apparently they weren't told what was happening at all. Here's another report from ABC.
Raise him as one of your slaves if you must.
What shall I call him? To whom should I attribute him?
His name is Muhammad.
Well, that you can see there is obvious dubbing. They dubbed it in because they didn't tell the actors, hey, you know what, you're part of the scam movie where we're going to insult Muhammad. And the actors are justifiably concerned, hey, could this endanger us? And why did you lie to us? So everybody involved got screwed here. But let me say something before we go to our guest. Look, the movie is hideous. You can't even call it a movie. If you can, it's the worst one ever made. That being said, all of these attacks of our embassies are still 1,000,000% unjustifiable. Look, I got news for the Muslim world. I know some fundamentalist Muslims don't like it, but we have freedom of speech here. So sad day for you. We get to say whatever we want about your religion. If you don't like it, too bad. It's just that simple. Oh, your feelings are hurt. I don't really care. And maybe that makes me super harsh. Now, I wouldn't have done it in the way that this movie did it. It was clownish and ridiculous and meant to be offensive and meant to cause a reaction. But that being said, if you insult Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, as an American, you've got every right to do that. All right, now I'm going to bring in Corey Saylor. He's with the government. He's actually the Government Affairs Director for the Council on American Islamic Relations. Now, Corey, I know that you guys obviously have condemned the attacks. That's obvious, right? And I know that you're not a big fan of this movie. That's also obvious because it's a terrible, terrible movie. Everybody recognizes that it's meant to be offensive, etc. Now, having said that, one, can we also agree that he's got every right to make that move?
Oh, absolutely. The First Amendment says that you can do those kind of things, and that's what allows us to have a healthy, if sometimes coarse, dialogue in this country.
So now I know your group, projects a positive image of Muslims in the country, and you do a good job at it. And, people always say, hey, listen, man, when we're attacked, none of the Muslims ever speak out. That's not true. Your group speaks out all the time, right? So I know
frequently.
that. Yeah. Now, having said that, though, look, can you explain to me why Muslims get so bent out of shape? And understand, I'm a former Muslim. My family's Muslim, right? But why do Muslims get so bent out of shape when somebody disagrees with their religion or offends them? So what? So what? So what? So what? That guy doesn't believe in your religion. So what?
Well, I think it's natural for people to get upset when somebody offends someone they hold in high esteem. I mean, as a Muslim who reveres Jesus as well, I got upset when they made the temptation of the Christ. The line gets crossed, though, when you act on those emotions in a violent fashion. That's completely unacceptable. And let's just be very frank here. The greater insult to Islam is the violence that we see, not the movie. I mean, the movie, as you say, is trash, but it should be ignored, not, brought into the limelight.
Yeah, now we're looking at live pictures of Egypt there, by the way. And, you and I, again, Corey, agree on the attacks on the embassies, whether it's Egypt, it's Yemen, Morocco, Tunisia, are unacceptable. And what you're seeing there is unacceptable. But Corey, to get back to the offense thing, here's something I never understood. Depiction of Muhammad, and I know because I studied it, and I said I grew up in the religion. Depiction of Muhammad is not allowed, right? Okay, fine. But it's not allowed for Muslims. Why aren't other people allowed to do it? Why aren't the Danish allowed to do it? Why aren't the Americans allowed to do it?
Well, they are allowed to do it, and that's just the reality. It's the reaction that is the concern. And Muslims are all very familiar with the story where Muhammad went to a town near Mecca to preach Islam. He was attacked and beaten, and then later offered the opportunity to destroy that town, and he declined. He said no. That's the kind of response that we need to see here. The violence is completely unacceptable, and it actually has the effect of making Islam look like a bad faith in many people's eyes.
I know, but I'm going to go one step further here.
Yep.
Look, of course, 99.99% of Muslims are peaceful and they don't participate in any of this stuff. That's obvious. But having said that, look, I don't think you're winning that debate. I don't think that even the majority of Muslims think, hey, if you get trash thrown on the Prophet, that's okay, and you should turn the other cheek. I think they think, oh, that is a grave offense that must have consequences.
But, Cenk, what you have to do is recognize, here in the United States, we also see violence. Somebody walks into a movie theater, starts shooting people. Somebody murders Sikh worshippers. Somebody opens fire on former co-workers in New York. But what doesn't, that remains awful, but what doesn't happen is nobody goes, oh, all Americans are going to be, addicted to gun violence because of that. That's a ridiculous notion. So we have 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. The violence that we see is coming from an extremely small minority. They need to learn to express themselves in a nonviolent fashion, and yes, we as Muslims recognize that that is on our shoulders, but I don't think the entirety of our faith should be swept under that banner just because a few people decide to act that way. All
right, fair enough. Corey Saylor from the Council on American Islamic Relations. Thank you so much for joining us on the Young Turks.
Hey, thanks for giving me a chance to talk.
All right, no problem at all. All right, now when we come back, we got another colorful character who's ready to talk, Jesse Ventura. Did you know that he's probably more liberal than President Obama? Wait till you find out his real opinions on policies. Plus, who would he be Secretary of Defense for? Plus, the SEALs that are going after Obama, Ventura's going after them.
Excuse me, I say this to those SEALs. Isn't Obama your commander-in-chief?
Well, there you go.